Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Adona.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning from Rome.
I'm jealous. How
Yeah,
do you like my country, Rob?
it's beautiful. I went to the Colosseum.
Oh, nice.
Give me a second.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
There, Mr. Wilson.
Rob, how you doing?
Pretty good. So, before we get started, I'm going to talk about what makes us irresistible. And it's a paradigm shift from us chasing clients to them seeking us out. All right. And while we're waiting for the rest of our audience to get on here, anybody have any good success stories this past week? Mr. Wilson.
I got a good one. The worst real estate transaction of my career for an $83,000 sale. We closed it yesterday with a daily threat of getting sued.
Always
That's beautiful.
Beautiful.
Rob, I will share something with all of you. So on my Tuesday mastermind this week, I shared a few things that they could do to spark their business, what they can start today. And we had, I don't know if Sophia's on the call, but I gave them some scripts to send out to their past clients or prospects. And she reached out to one of her past clients, and she literally within while we were on the call, they said, "Oh my God, we've been meaning to call you. Are you still doing real estate? I need my house rented." So that just gave her an extra transaction by just sending one of the text messages I told everyone to send out.
Okay. That's amazing. And I think now you said you gave them a script. What was the magic script, Adona?
Let me find it. I have it right in front of me. So one of them that I gave, let me pull up her text because she sent me a screenshot. It was just to check in saying, "Hey, Maria, hope all is well with you and your family." And she's like, "Hi, Sophia. We were just mentioning you. Not sure if you're handling renting of homes, but we are looking to rent my father-in-law's house in Clifton, probably sometime soon." And then she replied back. So she ended up getting the listing.
Fantastic. So, sometimes when we're in the industry, right, we're looking out, we look at our customers as customers, but we don't really put a perspective into how do they look at us, right? So, I don't know, maybe if Donna, you're in front of a screen where you can type, maybe you can kind of give me an idea of what the response is to this. But what do you think your customers, when you're representing them and buying and selling, what do you think they look for the most? Like, what are the attributes or the qualities that they look for in an agent? And here you can just shout it out or put it into the chat. If you shout it, Adona will do her best to put it into the chat. And if you want to just type it in, if you're a little shy, you can do that. So being that my fellow Italian, since I'm Italian today, Lisa, what do you think consumers look for when selecting an agent to represent them, either buying or selling their property?
Well, I think number one, they look for good communication. I just had somebody tell me yesterday how they're about to fire their current agent because they're not communicating with them and they take 2 or 3 days to respond. So good communication is very important. And then you have to be trustworthy because trust is also very important, and reliable and punctual, and have the client's best interest at heart. That's
Good
what.
communication, trust, reliable.
Mhm.
I
And what do you think?
I think also likable.
Yeah,
Reliable,
Likable.
Confidence.
likable.
likable. Okay.
Knowledgeable. Confidence in your abilities.
Yeah,
Knowledgeable, yes, definitely.
yes. Knowledge of the system, the procedures to close a deal.
Okay.
Skilled.
Bill, the process, right? To get stuff
Yes.
done.
Positive as well,
All right.
positive, and which is like confidence, the same, positive and confident that you're going to get the job done.
Patience.
Patience.
That's a good one.
I think with some consumers, you want to be personable, not just talk about real estate, but be able to converse about families and friends and environments and stuff.
Yep. So interestingly enough, I guess knowledgeable, but I guess that could be, you know, knowledge of the local market, right? Or just general knowledge. I think negotiating skills were not mentioned here. Do you think that they're not top 10?
They
Or
are.
do we just forget that?
I think that goes along with your confidence and credibility, right? It's kind of a total package. I'm confident enough that I can negotiate this deal, and my credibility stands behind that I'm able to negotiate deals.
Okay. And what do you think the number one trait that they look for? Like, and I think it trumps all other ones.
I like
Connection?
energy.
Professional?
Energy.
Confident.
Let me just
Integrity.
find this here. Trustworthiness and integrity. That goes significantly above local market knowledge, followed by experience and track record, communication skills, and negotiation skills. Now, I find it to be pretty refreshing that the consumers are putting communication skills against negotiations ahead of negotiation skills, but probably it's because of the skills that we have when we interact with them, but they don't know how much our communication skills after the offer or after communicating with them impact the transaction, whether it's a successful purchase or sale. That makes sense? So if integrity and trustworthiness is probably the most important skill that will attract clients to us, one way to demonstrate that you have integrity and trustworthiness is to have completed a transaction with somebody, right? And they say, wow, Beth did a great job. I'm going to use her again. Wilson, treated me like I was selling a $5 million house on my $87,000 or whatever you sold, Wilson. But if you haven't worked with them in the past, how do you demonstrate integrity and trust? Beth, looks like you're talking, but you're muted.
We're having a big thunderstorm here. It's really loud. I read an article about that just this morning, and it said one idea was rather than the real braggadocious types of posts on Facebook and so forth, but write a little story, brief story about how you help someone and you can demonstrate those attributes in your.
Let me ask you, if we were to be introspective, Beth, and you're buying a car, you're making a large purchase, right? You're buying life insurance, whatever it is. You're doing a big transaction. How do you decide if you trust somebody, especially if you haven't met them?
If I've never met them,
Yeah, like they come, you walk into a car dealership or somebody comes to your house to talk to you about insurance or investment opportunities and stocks and bonds, whatever.
I go from someone who recommended them.
Yep.
I go on my trusted, someone I do trust and who they recommended. So I guess.
You have to seem
Okay.
like you have things in common. You have to connect with some things in common. Like we like to jog, we like to bike ride, we sold a house. Hey, I sold a house similar to yours. Here's what I ran into. Just something that connects, whether it's business or personal.
I went through this
And I think,
yesterday. I had a call with the referral, and she quickly said that another agent referred her 3 names, and I'm one of 3 people. By the time we got off the call, I set up a time to come and meet her at her house with her husband, and she said because the way I made her feel, she's not interested to meet those other agents. We spoke very little about real estate. As soon as I realized how I needed to mirror her and meet her where she was, we stopped talking about numbers, about what the list price should be, and we were just 2 people. And I said, you should enjoy your time with me. And if I'm not somebody you want to break bread with, if it's not somebody I would want to have over my house, you're not going to want to work with me. Did any of these agents that you spoke to speak about things like this? Or were they talking about commission, list price, blah, blah, blah? And she goes, forget them. I'll see you Tuesday night at 5. So I got the listing.
David, is that an Opus One and a nickel there in your?
Oh, we love Opus One in the house. Yes.
See, there's a connection right there.
Well, yeah, whatever it is, you got to just connect and you go down that road and eventually you get back to real estate. And then at that point, they trust whatever you're sharing.
so So it looks like, there's a strong correlation between number 1 and 4, right? To be able to build trust, you have to be able to have superior communication skills, correct? And Tom Patterson, recruiting's the same way, right? I mean, you meet agents for the first time, you probably been chasing them for a while, and how do you build a relationship that can end up in a successful
So I think
transaction?
it's kind of what Dave just said, you need to be likable. You need to be someone that they want to hang out with, they feel like they can learn from, and that has confidence, and that, they're going to trust that's going to show them the way to support them and grow their business. It's the relationship first. It's not the brag book or this is what I did. It's about the person sitting in front of you first. And how can you help them? Their needs are first. Mine are not even in the picture. That's how we start most of our conversations.
Say that would work for some people, but not all, because the high D people or the high, like the analytical people, that doesn't work with. And I'm just going to tell you from an example that I had, and this client, she had her house on the market with another real estate agent. She wasn't happy, and that listing was going to expire. And so she started interviewing people. And I was one of the few people that she interviewed. And the guy that she interviewed right before me, he was leaving as I got there. He had mentioned she had a Porsche SUV. And he mentioned something about her car. And that was a complete turnoff to her. And you would think that he's trying to be relatable, etc. For her, that was like a deal breaker. She said to me, I don't know why he was talking about my car, but she was a numbers person. She was very like, this is the way you deal with grace. And I don't know how I ended up connecting with her, but I ended up getting the listing. And she has turned out to be one of my best clients that I've had, I would say, bar none. I have sold that house, condo for $1.4 million, a condo for another single family house for $1.2 million. I helped them buy a house for $890. I just sold a house for them for $1 million. I mean, like, I've gotten a ton of business from her. And I would have, if I tried to connect with her on, her jewelry or her car or whatever, I would not have been her realtor. And I literally have been, for the last 8 years, her go-to person. And I've done 1 or 2 or 3 transactions with her every year.
You know what's interesting about that is, I don't know who said it before, but he was talking about mirroring and figuring out what you need to do to connect with people. You have to communicate with people the way they want to be communicated with.
Correct.
Not necessarily the way you. So whatever you did, you mirrored her properly, and that's why. So you connected, but in a way that she wanted to be connected with.
That's correct. Not by trying to find out if she plays golf or, what her kids did or whatever. It wasn't about the personal stuff. It was more about the strategy for how to get the house sold for her, because I could tell she was not a person that is openly emotional, and, she's not that feely touchy person.
Right. Yeah.
Grace was one of these people where, like, if the buyer needed to close a day late, she wanted the $8 for the FP&L. I mean, that's the kind of person that she is.
And kudos to you for recognizing that. That's why you've been a trusted and valued professional for her for all these years. So awesome.
Also, there are people, it's a lot of people really consider it in very poor taste. You're really not supposed to comment or notice people's possessions. It's kind of none of your business. And a lot of people are offended by that. And I think you have to be careful.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of our trust is built upon, our communication skills and our judgment on how we read people. To your point, if you treat everybody exactly the same, you're gonna have complete misses because you're gonna have mismatches, right? Try to be phony. Try to mirror or try to find similarities to them. I think people will set fire on you tremendously. I don't know, is my connection still good? Can you guys still hear me?
Mhm.
Like when you move your head a little
Beth,
too
are you
much
able to hear
one
me? Okay.
way, we lose you and then come right back. So stay still.
You know what the kids say now? Read the room.
Okay, hang on. Let's see. All right, I won't. So, if we know that, trust, if we have local knowledge, we have a great track record, we have good communication skills and excellent negotiation abilities, will most people hire us if they don't trust us?
No.
I
Oh.
don't think so. What do you guys think? So isn't trust and integrity table stakes in the game? Right? That's really, without that, everything else almost seems insignificant, right? They're gonna like walk through the motion and say, you know what, Tom, we'll get back to you. You know what, you can, we'll get back. Like, if they don't feel that trust and they don't feel that authenticity, they're going to take a pass. So I find it, interesting that when we just did the kind of asking what you felt consumers were looking for, communication skills, reliability, likability, knowledge, process, attitude, and patience, we're probably all in that same bucket as trust. But I think you need to have good communication skills to demonstrate trust. But I think without trust, I think, we're going to lose the majority of our clients. Okay. And in this day and age where we now have, technology being a tremendous extension to us, a lot of our leads aren't people that were referred to us. Like, some of you had mentioned, like Beth, a client, or Sharon, somebody referred somebody to you. It's like we have to be able to stand on our own. We have to be able to read the room. That was you, Serby, right? Read the room and understand who we're dealing with. And it really gets interesting when you have two personalities as the client, right? You have two spouses, right? One of them's a high D and one's emotional, and you got to be able to read the room and figure out how do you bring everything home, bring it together, right? Does anybody prefer to go on a listing appointment with another agent? Because I know years past, some of my top team leaders, Doug would bring, his listing partner, and it was almost always a female, and he felt that there was always an enhanced ability to connect with another couple, like somebody would have that connection. Does anybody use that strategy or believe in that?
I just brought a new agent on a listing appointment in St. Pete. I was just talking about it actually in the comments. And, of course, I connected with one of the sellers and the spouse connected with Christy. So it just made everything so much easier, so much faster. And we're in and out of there in half the time to go to the next appointment. So absolutely, I think that's great if you have somebody that you are working with, whether they're new or they're seasoned. It can definitely be a big benefit.
Yep. Uh, um, and David, preparation is key. Like you might say, I budget an hour and 15, an hour and what's your listing appointment anticipation? Is that like an hour and a half, an hour, 45 minutes?
So they can be as short as 30 minutes and it can be as long as 2 hours, but it depends on a number of things. And again, it goes back to reading the room. And I've gone from a listing appointment to taking them out to dinner to a listing appointment that was 30 minutes and I'm off to, a photo shoot for the next client. It really just depends on what you feel the needs of those clients are. And again, it's meeting them where they need to be met. I deal with a lot of elderly. So for clients that, you need to have that compassion, they like the time. They like feeling like you're their son or their grandson for a lot of times. And the moment you connect on that level, you may spend an extra hour with them, but I don't look at the clock. I'm thinking about building that rapport. And then before you know it, their kids are calling you, thanking them and saying, hey, look, my friend needs your services.
And I think, sometimes, David, and as a team leader, you're going to have a consciousness about this. You may prepare a certain way for a client meeting, a listing appointment, a buyer consult, right? And it may go in a completely different direction. You don't need half the stuff that you did. doesn't mean that you need to go through all of that information, right? In other words, if you can get that message across and you can just nod your head, they're saying, hey, let's get this started, then it's kind of like zip it and move on to the next step, right? Because you've already won, you've already built that trust, and you need to
So
be
that's
able to
why I go
know
back.
when you've done that.
That's why I go back to sometimes it's only 30 minutes, right? And you had planned an hour or 45 or an hour and 15. And I think Jennifer Raby was on saying you can talk yourself. Yeah, some people talk themselves out of a deal. I see it all the time.
You have to know
I'm
when to
getting,
close. Know when
you
to
need to know,
close.
know when to close, bring it home, baby. You know, I'm getting 2 listings from an agent in Jupiter down here in Cape Coral on Monday. They're 2 new builds. And I realized the seller is from Long Island. The way I'm going to speak to him and his wife, the way that they're analytical and they're quick and they're all about the numbers. They had 10 minutes for me. But in those 10 minutes, I made sure that I drilled every point I wanted. I was very, very prepared. And the way I speak to those clients is very different than I speak to a Sarasota seller that's elderly, that's, going to need me to handhold. So yeah, you need to really do your homework, but also be prepared to pivot and adjust quick.
So, um, how do we position ourselves where we're more attractive to both buyers and sellers instead of chasing them? Interesting question. And I put it in the context of people that aren't referred to us, because the people that are referred to us, we already have seemingly a tremendous advantage, right? And those should be, you know, success rates in the 90+% range. But if somebody calls up and says, hey, sir, I'm interviewing 3 people I found on Zillow. You all have excellent reviews. I'd like you to come out on Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, which works best for you, which works best for you. That's a different relationship than somebody saying that, hey, you sold my neighbor's house. They couldn't stop bragging about how great the experience was. I want to list my house, right? The mindset's a little bit different, isn't it? So the question is, how do we position ourselves to have that 90+% success rate when we're put into a competitive environment and we don't have firsthand experience?
I think you bring in all your integrity, your trust, everything together. Everything we just talked about, but at the time, be ready with your resources and comps and be prepared. But it's your energy that's going to help a lot, I think, when you walk in there.
Who's ever gone into one of those competitive situations? And Serby, if you role play with me, I might say, hey, Serby, do you mind if I ask, have you sold a house before? And probably most people would be saying yes. And I'd say, hey, can you share with me, what did you like about that experience and what can be improved? Now, I'm going to step out of the role play here, right? Like, how would that make you feel if somebody asked you those questions? Would you feel like they're, slick, or would you feel like they care about the experience?
I think they're looking forward to finding out how the entire time you'll be with them and the experience they'll have during their journey of selling their home. So they're trying to gauge you the whole time.
Times, Serby, don't you think if you're if you have a connection, right, that the people will just tell you how they want you to win their business, right?
Yes, they're giving you the clues.
Yeah, like Serby, what was the most frustrating part of that experience when you sold your house 5 years ago?
Yeah.
How would you have preferred to have been communicated with, right? And then when they tell you, you say, so it sounds like, Serby, you would like to get an update at least once a week, or you'd like to get an update within 24 hours after every showing.
Right.
Here's how you want to be treated. Now, I think
They
I've
tell
already made you feel, I've entered into that 10% of agents when I just communicate that way, right? A lot of agents
absolutely.
are just fearful, like they have commission breath. They're desperate. And if you put a gun to their head, they'd say anything to make a sale. And that should not be us. Like, we have to move with integrity and, to serve clients better, especially ones that we've never worked with. It makes a whole lot of sense to ask them, can you tell me about your prior experience working with an agent? If they haven't sold a house. Hey, Serby, we've never sold a house before. Fantastic. Well, I'm so glad I found that out. I'd like to find out how you would like to be treated throughout the process. Like, how can I make the experience better for you? Again, I don't think many agents are talking about that. I think they're just going in, here's the comps and here's the commission and right, sign over here. And they're not connecting at that next level. So becoming irresistible doesn't mean that you have to have been referred before, right? It's a matter of the way that you carry yourself. Who's in control of a conversation? Who remembers that one from a week or two ago?
The one who's asking the questions.
The one who's asking the questions is in control, right? And they're telling you how to win the business, Jason. When you ask the questions, they're telling you, hey, Jason, what part of that experience was most frustrating for you when you sold your house in Oklahoma, right? And they're going to tell you. And then you might even say, hey, Jason, do you mind if I just take a few notes? Because for me, I treat all my clients a little bit differently so that I can listen to how you want to be, treated throughout the process. Sorry about that. So, I think all of those things are building trust, and the next person can come in and they might even have sold more houses than you in that community, and they might have even been referred by, an uncle or cousin or a neighbor, but you can, and it's not them, it's us. It's not them, it's us. It's the way we communicate with them. Does anybody have anything unique that they do with their client engagement? And I want to look at it from a perspective of not so much a repeat client, but let's just say it's a lead you got from Bold Trail. It's a lead that you bought where
Before I even meet them, if I have a couple of days
there's really not much of a
before,
connection. Anybody have anything unique that you do? Tell me what you do.
I send them a card or a
Serby?
letter prior to meeting them. I send them a card or a letter prior to meeting them, telling them I'm looking forward to meeting you and a little bit about
Okay.
me. So it warms them up before you get there.
And what do you think? What do you think the success rate going in on a competitive buyer or a competitive listing opportunity should be?
100%.
I like it.
So you expect to land 100 of them. Love that. Anybody else?
Well, something that you said, and I know that everyone's going to have a different opinion, but I was going to bring it up earlier. I don't think the mindset needs to be different. If I get a Zillow call, I am confident enough with my ability. If I get you on the phone, I'm going to land the client. If I get in the door on the listing, I'm going to land the client. It's a mindset. It's not an ego thing. When I walk in, I already know I'm going to be the best person to do this. Now, whether I'm the best person for you is going to be the only thing I can't answer. And I'm not built for everyone. If me and I'll just use David because I know him and I know he won't mind me using him as an example. But if me and David were going to compete in a listing, 50% of them, they're going to love him. They're 50% are going to love me. Our personalities are just different enough that some people are going to love us and some people aren't. So I think that if you walk into every situation, if you get me on the phone, I have enough confidence that I'm going to be able to sell you on the idea that I'm a great agent. And if you want to give me a chance, I'm going to be the best person for you.
Yep.
If I don't end up, that's okay too. But I still walked in thinking that I can sell it.
Guys, so
Right.
everybody knows, if I was going to sell my house in Pensacola, I would probably call Jason Panos. And
You
then,
would
you know,
not.
I got family there too, Dean and Barbara. I would call them as well. I love my people, but I love how Jason, you know, handles himself. As, you know, I've seen him in action with a lot of different, you know, professionals, and he's really serious about his business. And I'm really happy to have him among others that we've just, you know, brought onto the Select family. So I appreciate, you know, that, you know, we're very different, but I love the way you do business. So keep doing your thing.
Well, and our
And-
personalities are similar. If anyone sees us next to each other, we have similarities, but we do have differences. And I do think that when you're in a competitive environment, people are going to see differences. And I think what we're talking about here, very first thing I do in my listing appointment is I ask 3 questions. I don't care what is, if it's divorce, if it's this, if it's that, every single time I ask the same 3 questions. It gets them talking. And that way I know how, as we said it before, read the room. I know, is this person going to be, do they care about the flashy stuff? Do I need to mention their Porsche in the driveway, or do I stay away from that? Do I need to, bring up why, what, but I'll be honest, 2 appointments this week, we've said it today. One was 40 minutes, one was 2 hours. The 40-minute one, death in the family, mom died. He was literally stoic. I mean, it wasn't that he was like depressed. He was stoic. Like, he was just that personality. He's like, what are we going to do? How are we going to do it? I laid it out. He said, show me the numbers. He goes, I'm good with that signed. And he goes, go ahead and do what you need to do. The divorced couple, I sold them the property. It wasn't competitive, but I asked him the same question. What happens next? I said, if you guys don't want to talk about it here, I guarantee I'll get 2 out of that one. I'll sell the house and one of them's going to buy a house for me. I think the other one, I might get a referral when he moves, because I asked those questions, but I read the room there. But I knew going in, I'm going to lay it out the exact same way, and I'm not going to change what I do or who I am.
So what are the famous Panos 3 questions?
I always go in very first thing, and I said, I'll sit down and I'll say, so why am I here? Why do you want to sell? And I let them talk through it. They can take 5 minutes, they can take 20 minutes. But it gives you an insight of what they're thinking and what, because that's going to lead maybe to questions down the road. Well, I want to upsize, I want to downsize. If I haven't gotten that on the phone, it's going to open the door. Then the next thing is, when I do sell your home, what's your next plan? Because I'm either looking for, am I going to sell you a buyer, or do I have a potential referral sitting at the table that I can immediately leave the table and get a referral connected? And then the next question, before I even open the door, is I say, what do you expect me to tell you? Do you have any idea what your house is potentially worth? Now that tells me 2 things. A, have they looked it up on Zillow and where they got it? But also, do they have an expectation? Do I need to also in my presentation outline something that, oh, you know what? Well, you looked up on Zillow and I'm telling you a number differently because has Zillow ever seen your property? Has this, or there's a reason you're hiring me because Zillow is doing this. And I think your house is worth $30,000 more than Zillow thinks. And I think we can get that. And here's why. So those are always the 3.
So Jason, would you take a listing for blood money?
Would I give my blood up for money?
Where you don't really. No.
You mean like an overpriced list?
If you knew that you weren't going to get any referrals from this client, and a client that maybe is not the same vibe that you have, and you don't, even if they refer you, people are going to be just like them, and you don't want to work with them in the future. So it's just a one and done, right? You can make 15 grand, you deal with this person. It probably will be a little rocky, and they're never going to refer you. Would you take that listing?
That's a hard question. So let me say overall, probably yes. And I say this because if somebody calls me and asks me for help, I'm going to help them. I recently had one of my dearest friends who sent me her daughter and said, look, she's had a terrible experience. Will you help her? Her daughter's now husband sent me his brother. She calls me later and says, will you list my house? It's $1 million house on the water. And after 2.5 months of dealing with the husband, I fired him. No qualms about it. I'm like, look, I don't need to deal with this. And part of it is that his ego got in the way of his goals. But I took the listing because she asked me, knowing her husband was going to be difficult. I had 0 qualms about walking away from it. So the answer to your question, yes, I would take a listing because somebody asked for my help. And if they understand the way I lay things out, and we they understand the communication, whether or not I think it's going to be difficult, but I also am no worries about walking away when I need to.
So would you have reservations about saying like something along the lines of this, Jason? Hey, Jason, if we decide to work together and I met all your expectations and you never felt strong enough to refer me, or I didn't do a good enough job to earn repeat business. I'd like to be excused before we get started. Something to that line where my body language, everything I'm about is saying that, look, if we decide to work together, I'm gonna exceed your expectations, and I hope to work with your brother, your neighbor, and your children when they buy houses. 8, 20,
Rob, you broke up a little
$11,000,
bit.
whatever that amount is. I'm about, the relationship piece here.
You broke up a little bit, but I think I got the gist of it.
Yeah, I think I broke.
Yeah, I think yes, I would absolutely say something like that, I guess, to someone I didn't know. This one was somebody who I knew her husband by reputation because she's told me about him and her family has told me about him. So I kind of already knew what to expect. He was 10 times worse than that. Which, okay, fine. But again, I did it because somebody asked me to, and whether that was a friend, whether that was somebody on this calls me up for a referral. Look, I'm gonna tell you, this guy's gonna be difficult. I can deal with difficult, and I'm not gonna lose sleep when it doesn't work out. I'm gonna call you and say, look, this person doesn't need me. This person needs therapy. I don't care, whatever it takes to get it done. But sometimes we take the difficult ones. Personally, I will take the ones, even the hard ones, the low price, the high price, the word personality. But I'm also not afraid to be like, look, I have more I have more pride than making this sale to, discount what I'm worth to you. And that has nothing to do with commissions. That has to do with, you want to cut me down at the knees. I have no qualms about letting you deal with someone else. But to your answer,
So,
yes.
Todd, I'm going to get back to you. So,
Sorry.
Todd, I'm going to get, I see your hand raised, but I'm going to get back to you in a minute. But I think the thing here is maybe more of a mindset, and maybe it's not about walking away from a transaction, but it's more about, I want to work with people where I can have a clear communication, and I can set the stage for creating a raving fan and having you refer me because I did such a great job. That's how I see the experience working, Jason. And if you can see that happening together, let's decide to work together today, as opposed to Jason looking at me and saying, Rob's just in it for $14,000. He'll
Sure.
tell me anything to make 14,000, which is not who I am, not what I'm going to do, and not the vibe that I want to put out there, because then I feel like I'm giving the leverage over to the consumer, the client, right? And that's why I think if you're working with buyers, and you're signing buyer's agency agreements, hey, my fee is 3%. You can find people to work for 0.5%, but you get what you pay for. And when this is done, you're probably going to say, Jason, you did such a great job. Can I give you a bonus? And Jason's going to say, don't worry, I'm not going to take it. Like that's the type of thing that you can do, because it's just, that's what we strive for, right? The customer looks at us, like if we look at two, here's the buyer and here's the agent, right? The agent is talking to the customer, and the customer is saying, how much is this going to cost me? Not what am I going to get from it?
Yeah.
And I think that we need to close that loop. And if they know that it's not about, Jason, it's not about $14,000, and I want to get repeat business.
Yeah. No, and well, and to follow up on that, I'm competitive enough that if I think that this may be a one-off, I'm like, no, it's not going to be a one-off. You're going to tell all your friends about me. You're going to tell your neighbors about me. You're going to tell your family about me. I'm going to be your guy. And if I produce at that level, I know that that just doesn't impress the client. That's going to impress it down the road. And that's the mindset I have, is I'm not just going to impress you today. I'm going to impress you through this process, and 6 months down the road and 3 years down the road. That's my mindset. That's what I meant by that, Rob.
And it might even be, and it might even be, Jason, it's a good opportunity to say, hey, you know what? At the end of this experience, I'm going to have exceeded your expectations of what real estate professionals deliver. And at the end, I'm going to ask you to give me a Zillow or a Google review. So at the end, I mean, I think you earn the right to do that. You know, but if I look in your eyes and I see that you looking at me as $14,000, not as a relationship, it's different.
Absolutely.
Okay. You know, if you're looking at somebody and you're calculating your fee when they're sitting in front of you, they probably feel that as well. They feel like they're a target as opposed to a client and not a client for life. So anyway, it's something that, you know, some of you a year from now will say, now I get it, right? Because you've had that aha moment when you're sitting with a client and, you know, you can't be bought. Like your reputation or dealing with somebody that's not a good fit for you is just not a good fit. And it's okay to say, hey, I don't think we're going to be I don't think it's going to be a great working relationship, and move on to somebody else because of, you know, we do live in abundance. Like you could find another client than deal with a pain in the ass client. And Jason, how long have you been selling?
10 years.
Have you had one or two clients that probably were not profitable that even closed? So you made a commission, but you're like, oh my God, that was like, took so much time and so much anxiety out of my life from going through it.
I've actually had a few that were, you know, my bank account loved me, my mental health didn't. I just recently had one that was, I think we saw, actually closed yesterday, 27 homes. It was a foreclosure we found, and they were looking at $165,000. There was nothing we could find. There's a past client. I said, look, I'm determined to find you something. The minute she said, well, maybe we need to go a little higher, I said, let me show you something, because I think this payment's going to be less than what you think. Showed them a $200,000 foreclosure. She wanted it that day. We got it a little bit less, but the payment was almost identical because it wasn't as old. Yeah, I don't think I made any money on that when it gets down to the nitty gritty, but I didn't care. That one was I'll tell that one as a success story all year long. And I've had few that were like well higher, 800, 900, you know, $1 million range. And I'm like, you know what? Uh, my bank account loves me and I need therapy.
Yeah, they were not harmonious transactions. So if you feel and your body puts out, hey, you know, I'm not just here to make a single commission check, people feel it. Okay. And you know, and Wilson and Tom and anybody that's in the leadership team, when you're out there talking to an agent, and if you don't feel like you can help them grow their business and they're not of that right mindset, and all they're looking for is, hey, you know, Wilson, can you charge me less than, you know, whatever? Probably a bad relationship that you're entering into, right?
Yeah, that's
You
not
know,
how we
if
start.
you feel that you can help somebody, you know, I'm sitting there, Wilson, you know, I could triple your business, you know, I could show you the way. I can you're worried about, you know, spending $10 more, investing $10 more in your career, probably not the right place for you. And you can do that politely and honorably. And the same is true about, you know, sellers. Like, let's face it, every seller is not going to, and uh, sometimes we need to make business decisions, right? We can't just say, hey, I'm so inflexible, I'm never going to make an adjustment. Um, but I also do think we just need to know it's not always about price, right? Now, Eric Todd Gatchell, you still here? You're very patient with your hand raised.
Yeah, it's practice and patience. No, I was just saying that I'm still a newer agent, and one of my tactics, I'm not sure the advice of when I tell you guys, if you would tell me to continue this, however, it served me well over this past, 15, 16 months that I've been doing it. Each time that I've got a client, and have started working with them, I have let them know right up front that I am a newer agent. I say, I just want you to know that I am a newer agent. I have plenty of years of experience behind me that I can rely on with my partner, Doug. But I say, just in case, you've done multiple transactions, I want to be transparent with you that if I do something that you're not used to, that other realtors have done, please let me know. That's only going to help me in my career and the path that I'm on. I've gotten 2 repeat clients that I worked with last year for seasonal rentals already going into this year. So I'm not sure what the group would say about leading with that advice. I've just felt that I just wanted to be honest.
Is it working?
It has. I have not.
Keep doing it.
I have not had any clients leave me. So I've just being honest, and each one has thanked me very upfront, saying, "What we would rather work with you than somebody that is new and doesn't know what they're doing, but they act like it." So it's the honesty has served me well.
Be authentic, and if it's working, keep doing it.
And just
May I
don't keep
ask?
doing it 5 years from now.
Yeah.
Don't say
May
in
I
10 years.
ask?
By the
Yeah.
way, I'm new. That'll kind of wear off. But
All
yeah.
right.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, may I ask what's the price point of where you are? Like meaning the
Yeah, I'm
like
right I'm in Palm Beach Gardens. I'm working with a buyer right now. Looking, their budget is 1.8 million, and then
oh,
right after
and I was just
that,
gonna say, if it's getting you where you want to be price point wise, when I started, I was like in mid 500s, and I never said I was new because I was like you, I had a lot of other experience that really transferred well. And if
Mhm.
they ever ask me how long I've been doing, I'd be like, oh my God, it feels like forever. And then and I never lie, but I
Mhm.
don't always reveal that. But if it's working for you, kudos.
I didn't want to. The reason some of my reasoning was I didn't want to be with a client and not have, even though I could get an answer to anything, I didn't want to be stuck in the middle of an answer and give BS. As I just wanted to be honest and say, look, I'll find that answer. If they ask a question that they thought maybe I probably should know the answer to, but me being new, I wouldn't.
Fair enough.
But
We always know way more than they do though. So it's
Just remember,
one of the most powerful
stop
things.
saying.
One of the most powerful things in sales is when you're able to say, you know what, I don't have that answer yet. So your approach is just a good circumference of just, I don't know that yet. But the key is that you are going to know that. You're going to find that out. You've surrounded yourself with the right people. Eric, you're in this Zoom call every single Friday with your camera on. You're learning. You've surrounded yourself with the right people. Your approach is completely. There's a saying from Brian Buffini, which is it's Latin for ancora imparo, which means yet I am learning. The reason I know that one so well is it's literally tattooed on me. It is the conversation that we're all learning. So in a case study, we're all new at everything we do every single day. I just did my first co-op, learned everything, never going to do it again. But it is such an incredible experience when you're able to